We had a genuine mystery on our hand.
The hunt for evidence
It was an amazing forensic puzzle.
that could convict a killer.
We knew who we wanted. He was a very evil,
Vile, diabolical,
devious person.
almost inhuman.
I mean, he had dead eyes.
Shivers went down my back.
We were dealing with a serial killer.
But we didn't know where he was.
The pressure is on for the women who lead their teams
I was convinced I was missing something.
We didn't have a lot of time.
to solve the crime
I didn't let it go.
and put a killer behind bars.
She was a classic sociopath.
This guy has been hurting women for many years.
This was gonna happen to somebody else.
I could feel him at the tips of my fingers.
This was our one shot. All hell broke loose.
That's the pinnacle of an investigation. I caught a killer.
And that, of course, is the promotional reel for a great series entering a new season called Murder, She Solved. We are very happy to be joined by series producer Dana Joel and also Thomas Hunt, senior story producer for Murder, She Solved.
Hello, how are you guys?
And you guys
Alive.
You brought Jell-O.
We brought dessert. We'll
This is
explain
so
this in a
nice.
moment, but first of all, you guys have to explain the show Murder, She Wrote. Who wants to?
Murder, She Solved.
She Solved. Sorry, Murder, She Wrote. Totally different show.
Yes.
Do not turn into Murder, She Solved thinking you're going to get Murder, She
Tell
Wrote.
us about the show.
Well, Murder, She Solved, we're going into our second season. It's basically a true crime series where we feature female investigators who played a lead role in solving a major crime.
The question I always have when I see this is, how do you source these stories? I mean, because you guys have widened. The first season, I think, was all Canada, right, Dana?
Yeah.
And now you guys are North America. But how do you actually find the stories?
Well, that's actually Thomas's job.
Thomas, you crazy researcher. I mean, in all honesty, how do you go through this? How do you do it?
It's actually, of all the television shows I've worked on, this is the hardest to find the cases or the stories. And it meant establishing a lot of relationships with police, which usually I've avoided the police.
Right,
but,
yeah, that's right. I've done that in a different way. But...
So across Canada, getting to know police services, and then this season in the United States. Also through associations, there for women in policing and all kinds of associations, and it's just one-on-one communication ultimately.
Now, when we're talking about murder, these are not happy stories, obviously,
Right.
and you interview the families, which I can't imagine would be an easy thing for you to do, never mind for the families when we're talking about cases that have been unsolved for years and years and years, to talk about these things. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it's obviously, well, not obviously, but I've never had anybody in my family or close to me murdered. So I'm talking to these families, and I'm literally saying, I've not gone through this. I can only imagine, and yet I can't really imagine because I don't really know. And it's just, just such a horrendous, awful thing.
But it's incredible. I mean, we saw the premiere episode. We got a sneak peek, Fiona and I, and to see them open up about it and talk so honestly about this and the experience that they've had is really, it adds a dimension to the show that I don't think you see in a lot of these sort of
I
true
find
crime
that
shows.
fascinating that they want to, they generally want to go on and talk about their family member. I guess it's something that we can't really relate to, but we just find
I
that
would
for
imagine
some
it would
reason.
be cathartic for them too to speak to the public about what it is actually like, because fortunately not a lot of people do know that experience. But I think in the world we live in, when there's CSI and crime shows on all the time, people are getting desensitized to the fact that this actually does happen to people.
And the other aspect I think is that I noticed in the first episode is they want to honor the detectives that are involved in these crimes, as saying, they were so tenacious and worked so hard to do this. And
These are police who did amazing. These are complicated cases. I almost call them stories, but cases that take so much hard work, dedication. I mean, the episode coming up this Saturday. 13 years had gone by. It became a cold case, and other people were killed. But the police never give up, and they carry it with them, and they're very invested and quite emotional.
How much has forensics changed, solving crimes from 13 years ago and being able to make those connections? What have you guys discovered about the forensic world?
Well, we have seen that, definitely. I mean, we have, I can't remember off the top of my head which case it was, but the one where back when it, I guess, happened, DNA didn't really exist. It was brand new. And fast forward to many, many years later, it then solves the case. But at the time, this woman was actually getting flack from her counterparts who sort of believed that it was a bit of like hocus pocus.
Yeah, a little bit of
Yes.
hocus pocus.
Yeah.
DNA.
But the amazing thing about DNA, and I think we all get a bit, distorted view. Oh, DNA is going to solve everything. It doesn't.
Yeah.
In this one case that we profile, they link multiple crimes to the same DNA. But that's all the DNA does.
Right. It doesn't tell you whose
It doesn't
DNA.
say it's
Yeah.
you, and
still
here's
need
his
a
address,
detective.
and he's going to be home at this time.
Okay, this is the elephant in the room. We have to explain what is here.
Well, pick your poison.
I love Jell-O. Jell-O.
You're going to go for a gelatin dessert.
Sorry, I should actually ask what the ingredients
So
of said
tell
Jell-O.
us what this Jell-O is and what the story is.
Okay, so this season we have 2 cases that involve poisoning, and I'm personally fascinated by poisoning. So in one case,
Well, I used to work with someone who says that. I'm personally fascinated with poisoning.
As a crime, not as something I'm practicing or perfecting.
This one was a male poisoner who put something called thallium, which is a banned rat poisoning, into Coca-Cola and poisoned the neighbors.
Because they were making too much noise.
Well,
and I've never thought of doing that when my neighbors make too much noise.
Right.
We sent him a letter to see if he would want to be on the show.
The actual criminal, the
he
poisoner.
wrote back, and literally in the office, we're all like, "Should we touch that envelope?"
Yeah.
It's really
Was he on the show?
Surreal.
No.
Oh, good.
He's on death row in Florida, and he very politely declined our invitation.
Wow.
The people you guys have been encountering, my God. Now tell us about the Jell-O.
So in another case, this woman who kills her 2 husbands puts antifreeze in the Jell-O. It's believed. Ultimately, nobody ultimately knows except the woman who did it in that case. But the police believe she put it in the Jell-O.
Well, and you can see I can get away with it because both these look fairly normal to me and quite digestible and
That's
quite
what's
lovely.
scary about it is that antifreeze is sweet and tasty, and the other was just completely odorless and tasteless.
This is like a how-to segment.
I know.
No.
Dana, let's talk about the actual investigators as well, because of course they're a central part of every single story, and once again the tenacity, but also the gut instinct involved in this line of work. It's fascinating that that's sort of the thread that runs through every story.
Intuition and teamwork, and in some cases, I guess, tenacity and a little bit of luck. But we have a story where it's almost like one investigator overhears another investigator. It's just, I don't know, the teamwork's quite amazing. The fact that they'll just never give up, no matter what it takes. So they'll follow every instinct, every lead.
Yeah, there's something that you hear a couple of people say, there's something that tugs at you. There's something that you can't
you don't
quite
necessarily
let
know
go.
what at the
So
time.
in addition to the advances in technology, though, it seems to come back to that really determined, dedicated police work. And in this case,
Cheers.
the thallium, the woman goes undercover for almost a year to outsmart the killer, who happens to be a member of Mensa and who lives in the same community and has a photographic memory.
Wow.
So the risk that she is at, right? Like she befriends him, right?
And the dedication, too, to actually go through with
Wow,
that.
what a story.
It is a
It's another
fascinating
great season.
show. Do not miss it. It's the second season of Murder, She Solved. True Crime is going to be on Saturdays at 5 o'clock on the Oprah Winfrey Network. Does that taste funny?
It smells like almonds.
Because it
for some
shouldn't.
reason. I'm not sure why.